Hello everyone, this is Dr. Prashant and welcome back to my public health series. So in this video, I'll be briefly explaining the concept of environment and health. Environment implies all the external factors, living and non-living, material and non-material, which surround man. So basically there are three components: physical, biological and social. So to start with water and sanitation, so these are the characteristic features of safe and wholesome water. It has to be free from pathogenic agents, free from harmful chemical substances, free from color and odor, and usable for domestic purposes. Coming to sources of water, first is rainwater, which is the prime source of water and the purest form of water. And under surface water, we can see reservoirs, rivers, streams, tanks, ponds, and lakes. Under groundwater, we can see shallow and deep wells along with springs. Now let's look at the difference between a shallow and a deep well. In shallow well, it taps the water from above the first impervious layer, whereas in deep well, it taps the water from below the first impervious layer. The water is moderately hard in shallow well, whereas it's much harder in deep well. And the water is grossly contaminated in the shallow well, whereas it's pure in deep well. And a shallow well goes dry in summer, whereas the deep well gives a constant source of water supply. Next is sanitary well. It is a well that is properly located, well constructed and protected against contamination. So some of the key features are: a sanitary well should be located not less than 15 meters from sources of contamination. It has to be located within 100 meters from user. And the lining depth should be 6 meters and it has to be made with bricks, stones and cement. And the parapet wall height should be 70 to 75 centimeters or 28 inches above the ground. The platform, which is a cement concrete platform, should be at least 1 meter in all directions. Coming to tube wells, it consists of a pipe, usually galvanized iron, sunk into the water bearing stratum and fitted with a strainer at the bottom and a hand pump at the top. And next is springs. So basically, when the groundwater comes to the surface and flows freely under natural pressure, we call it as a spring. And the shallow springs dry up very quickly, whereas deep springs do not show seasonal fluctuations in the flow of water. Now coming to water pollution, the natural impurities include dissolved gases and minerals, suspended impurities like clay, sand, mud, etc. Whereas under man-made impurities, sewage containing decomposable organic matter and pathogenic agents, industrial and trade wastes, agricultural pollutants, physical pollutants like heat, radioactive materials, etc. So these are some of the water related diseases. Under biological, you can see viral hepatitis A, B, typhoid, amoebiasis, roundworm, etc. And due to presence of aquatic hosts, you can see schistosomiasis and guinea worm. And under chemical, we can see detergent, solvents, cyanides, heavy metals, minerals and organic acids, bleaching agents, dyes, etc. The Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was enacted in 1974. Now coming to purification of water, which can be done on a large scale as well as on a small scale. So before that, we will look at the components of water purification system. First is storage. The optimum period of storage of river water is around 10 to 14 days. So what happened during this period? 90% of the suspended impurities settle down in 24 hours due to gravity. And under chemical, aerobic bacteria oxidize the organic matter. As a result, free ammonia content is reduced and nitrate content increases. And under biological, bacteria count drops by 90% in first 5 to 7 days. And second component is the filtration, where 98 to 99% of the bacteria are removed by filtration. And there are two types of filtration, okay? One is biological or slow sand filters. Second is rapid sand mechanical filters. And third component is the disinfection, where we use chemicals for disinfection. So first we will start with large scale water purification. As already discussed, there are two types of filters. First is slow sand or biological filters. So basically these filters are accepted as the standard method of water purification. So these are elements of a slow sand filter. First is supernatant water, which is present above sand bed and the depth is around 1 to 1.5 meter. It helps to overcome the resistance of the filter bed and also to promote the downward flow of water through the sand bed. And it provides waiting period of 3 to 12 hours for sedimentation, oxidation and agglomeration. And now coming to second element, that is a bed of graded sand. It is important part of the filter and thickness is around 1 meter and the sand grains diameter is around 0.2 to 0.3 mm. And one characteristic feature is the vital layer. So a vital layer is nothing but the surface of the sand bed gets covered with a slimy growth. We call it as a vital or biological layer. And now coming to the next component, that is under drainage system. It is present at the bottom of filter bed, and in a filter box we can see the first three elements. They are supernatant water, sand bed and under drainage system. So filter box from top to bottom include supernatant water, followed by sand bed, next is gravel support, and last is filter bottom. And the last element is a system of filter control valves which are used to maintain constant rate of filtration. So Venturi meter measures the bed resistance or loss of head. So if the bed resistance or loss of head exceeds 1.3 meter, it is uneconomical to run the filter. So these are some of the advantages of slow sand filter. It is simple to construct and operate, cheaper than rapid sand filtration, and also improves the quality of filtered water. So basically it reduces the total bacterial count by 99.9 to 99.99% and the E. coli count by 99 to 99.9%. And now coming to second type of filtration, that is rapid sand or mechanical filters. So under this there are two types. One is gravity type and pressure type. So the example for gravity type is Patterson's filter. For pressure type, it's Candy's filter. So these are some of the steps involved in water purification by rapid sand filters. First is coagulation, where raw water is treated with a chemical coagulant such as alum. And in second step, that is rapid mixing. This rapid mixing allows a quick and thorough dissemination of alum throughout the bulk of water. Step 3 is flocculation, where slow and gentle stirring of the treated water is done in a flocculation chamber for 30 minutes. And in step 4, that is sedimentation, the coagulated water is sent to sedimentation tank where it is detained for 2 to 6 hours so that at least 95% of the flocculant precipitate is removed. And coming to the last step, that is filtration, where the partly clarified water is now subjected to rapid sand filtration. So the alum floc not removed by sedimentation is held back on the sand bed. Next is backwashing, which is done when the loss of head reaches around 7 to 8 feet. So in this process, washing is accomplished by reversing the flow of water through the sand bed. So these are some of the advantages of rapid sand filtration. It can deal with raw water directly, so we don't need to store anything. And the filter beds can occupy less space. And the filtration speed is around 40 to 50 times more than that of slow sand filters. And the easy washing of filter and the more operational flexibility we can see in rapid sand filtration. So these are some of the differences between rapid and slow sand filtration. You can just go through them. Now coming to disinfection, where we use chemicals or agents. First is chlorination. So chlorination is one of the advances in water purification, where chlorine has got the germicidal effect, but it does not have any effect on spores and certain viruses. The presence of free residual chlorine for a contact period of at least 1 hour is essential to kill bacteria and viruses. So usually chlorine is applied as chlorine gas, chloramine and perchloron. And the Patterson's chloronome is a device that is used to measure gaseous chlorine. Breakpoint chlorination is a point at which the residual chlorine appears and when all the combined chlorines have been completely destroyed. Superchlorination is the addition of large doses of chlorine to water and removal of excess of chlorine after disinfection. Orthotolidine test enables both free and combined chlorine in water to be determined with speed and accuracy. Whereas orthotolidine arsenate test, it's a modification of OT test to determine the free and combined chlorine residuals separately. Next is ozonation, where ozone is a powerful oxidant and it can be used as a primary disinfectant. So the process is ozone enriched air is dosed directly into the water by means of porous diffusers. So these are some of the methods and the membrane pore size: reverse osmosis, ultrafiltration, microfiltration and nanofiltration. So for nanofiltration, the size of membrane pore is very small. So reverse osmosis is used in the process of desalination of brackish water and seawater, whereas nanofiltration is used in the process of removal of color forming organic compounds. Microfiltration is used to remove dissolved organic carbon prior to reverse osmosis. Now coming to purification of water on a small scale. First is household purification of water. So some of the methods are boiling, chemical disinfection, filtration, UV irradiation, multi-stage reverse osmosis. Next is disinfection of wells, where the effective and cheap method is by using bleaching powder. So these are some of the steps in disinfection of wells. First, find the volume of water in a well, find the amount of bleaching powder required, dissolve bleaching powder in water. Next, delivery of chlorine solution into the well, and the contact period of 1 hour is allowed before the water is drawn for use. And the last step is a test for residual chlorine. So we use the test orthotolidine test. So next method is double pot method. In order to ensure constant dosage of chlorine to well water, we use double pot method. So it has two cylindrical pots, one placed inside the other, and the pot is immersed at least 1 meter below the water level. And the draw off rate is around 360 to 450 liters per day. These are the water quality standards, physical parameters, you can just go through them, followed by bacteriological quality of drinking water, where we should not find or detect any E. coli or coliform bacteria in any 100 ml sample of water. So under chemical aspects, these are the maximum limit for inorganic constituents, followed by organic constituents, then for pesticides. So you can just go through them. So now coming to hardness of water, it is defined as a soap destroying power of water, where it is mainly caused by four dissolved compounds. One is calcium bicarbonate, magnesium bicarbonate, calcium sulfate and magnesium sulfate. So usually the hardness of water is expressed in milliequivalents per liter. So this is a classification of hardness of water. So starting from soft water to very hard water, you can see the level of hardness in milliequivalents per liter. So for soft water, it is less than 1. For moderately hard, it is 1 to 3. For hard water, it is 3 to 6 milliequivalents per liter. For very hard water, it is more than 6. And now coming to removal of hardness, basically there are two types of hardness, temporary and permanent. So for temporary hardness, we use the methods of boiling, addition of lime, addition of sodium carbonate and permuted process. For removal of permanent hardness, we use addition of sodium carbonate and base exchange process. So in Clark's method of softening water, that is addition of lime, 1 ounce of pick lime is added to every 700 gallons of water for each degree, that is 14.25 ppm of hardness. Coming to water fluoridation, it is a process of supplementing the natural fluoride content of potable waters to the point of optimum concentration. So the optimum fluoride concentration is around 0.5 to 0.8 ppm, whereas in temperate climates it's around 1 ppm. Coming to water defluorination, in areas with high level of fluorides, water is defluorinated by phosphate to reduce fluorides to optimum levels. The National Water Supply and Sanitation Program was started in 1954. Now coming to the next component of environment, that is air, where the natural composition of air includes nitrogen, oxygen and CO2, and these are the comfort zones based on temperature. For pleasant and cool, the temperature is around 20 degrees. For extremely hot and beyond that, it's around 28 plus degrees. And this is comfort zone based on predicted 4 hours sweat rate. For comfort zone, we can say the 4 hours sweat rate should be 1 to 3 liters. For just tolerable, it is 3 to 4.5. For intolerable, it is more than 4.5 liters. So this table shows the major air pollutants, source and adverse effects. You can just go through them. So the common source of air pollution include oxides of nitrogen, hydrocarbons, ozone, sulfur dioxide and lead. So these are some of the common air pollutants from indoor sources. So you can just go through this table. And the air pollution monitoring in India is done by Central Pollution Control Board that was started in 1974. Now coming to ventilation, it is nothing but replacement of vitiated air by a supply of fresh outdoor air and also controlling the quality of incoming air with regard to its temperature, humidity and purity. So there are two types of ventilation. One is natural ventilation, where we can see wind, diffusion and inequality of temperature. And second is mechanical ventilation, where it includes exhaust ventilation, plenum ventilation, balanced and air conditioning ventilation. So these are the units used in the measurement of light. One is candela, used to measure the brightness of point source, lumen for flow of light, lux for amount of light reaching surface and lambert for the amount of light re-emitted by surface. And these are some of the recommended illuminations given in terms of lux. So you can just go through those values for better understanding. And this table shows the sound level of different noises in decibels. So the highest we can see in jet takeoff and the least we can see in the whisper, followed by quiet library. So these are the acceptable noise levels in decibels for residential, commercial and industrial. You can just go through them. The values are given in decibels. Next is radiation, where there are different sources of radiation exposure. So under natural sources, we can see cosmic rays, environmental sources, etc. And under man-made, we can see medical and dental X-rays, radioisotopes, occupational exposure and nuclear exposure. So there are two types of radiations basically. One is electromagnetic radiation, which include X-rays and gamma rays. And second is corpuscular radiations that include alpha, beta and protons. So this table shows the penetrating ability of different types of radiation. So on the left side, you can see the type of radiation, alpha, beta, gamma and X-rays. Among all the four, gamma rays have the highest penetrating ability compared to alpha, beta and X-rays. And you can also go through the units of radiation given in the table. And now coming to biological effects of radiation, under somatic, the immediate effects include radiation sickness and acute radiation syndrome. And the delayed effects include leukemia, carcinogenesis, fetal development abnormalities, and shortening of life. Whereas under genetic, we can see chromosomal mutations and point mutations. This table shows the biological response with dose of radiation. So if the dose is less than 5, we see no immediate effect, followed by slight blood changes, next followed by vomiting, nausea and fatigue, and severe blood changes, followed by death probability increases to 100% if the radiation dose is between 1100 to 2000. So if it is more than 2000, the death is a certainty. Coming to meteorological climate, the elements include atmospheric pressure, air temperature, humidity, rainfall, direction and speed of wind, movement of clouds and character of weather. So to start with atmospheric pressure, the normal value is around 760 mm of Hg, and at an altitude of 1 lakh feet, it is around less than 10 mm of Hg. And the pressure increases at a rate of 1 atmospheric pressure for every 33 feet depth below the sea level. So the measurement of atmospheric pressure is done by using Fortin's barometer, Kiev-Pater station barometer and barograph. Coming to the ill effects of atmospheric pressure, low pressure will lead to increase in respiration, increase in hemoglobin concentration, and increase in cardiac output, whereas a high pressure lead to acute mountain sickness and high altitude pulmonary edema. This table shows the measurement of air temperature using different thermometers. Please go through it. Next is heat stress indices. Basically, there are three. One is equatorial comfort index, second is heat stress index, and third is predicted 4-hour sweat rate. So the equatorial comfort index, it denotes the temperature of still and saturated air, which is equivalent physiologically to our climate under consideration. And second is heat stress index. It takes into consideration the metabolic rate and the principal channels of heat exchange between the human body and environment. So if the value is 0, there is no thermal stress, and if it is between 10 to 30, moderate to mild heat strain, and if it is 40 to 60, severe heat strain, and if it is 70 to 90, very severe heat strain, and if it is 100, the upper limit of heat tolerance has been reached. So these are some of the effects of heat stress. It include heat stroke, heat hyperpyrexia, heat exhaustion, heat cramps, and heat syncope. Now coming to measures of humidity, three instruments are used. One is dry and wet bulb hygrometer, second is sling psychrometer, and third is Ashman psychrometer. Next is housing standards. So different standards are given based on the site, setback, floor, walls, roof, rooms, etc. Please go through this. And these are standards with respect to overcrowding. So it includes two parts. One is person per room and floor space. Please go through it. And 2 points to be noted. One is baby under 12 months is not counted, and children between 1 to 10 years are counted as half a unit. Next is sex separation. Overcrowding is considered to exist if two persons over 9 years of age, not husband and wife of opposite sexes, are obliged to sleep in the same room. So there is one program, that is Rural Landless Employment Guarantee Program, called as Indira Awas Yojana. It was in the year around 1985 and 86. Now coming to waste disposal, first we will look at the methods of solid waste disposal. So the first method is dumping, where the refuse is dumped into low-lying areas. And second method is controlled tipping or sanitary landfill. So basically this method is suggested when there is suitable land. So there are three methods in this. One is trench method, ramp method, and area method. And next method is incineration. This is a method of choice when suitable land is not available. So usually hospital refuse is most commonly disposed by this method. Next method is composting, which is a natural process, and there are two types of composting. One is Bangalore method, that is anaerobic method. Second is mechanical composting, also called as aerobic method. Coming to manure pits, it is a method of refuse disposal in rural areas. And last is burial. So this method is suitable for small camps. And the International Solid Wastes and Public Cleaning Association, that is ISWA, was formed in 1970. Next is sewage. It is wastewater from a community containing solid and liquid excreta derived from houses, street and ad washings, factories and industries. So sewage contains usually 99.9% water and 0.15% solids. So it includes both organic and inorganic. But the offensive nature of sewage is mostly due to organic matter. The standard test, which is an indicator of the organic content of the sewage, is BOD, that is biochemical oxygen demand. And the strength of sewage is expressed in terms of BOD, that is biochemical oxygen demand, COD, that is chemical oxygen demand, and suspended solids. First, we will look at the BOD, that is biochemical oxygen demand. It is defined as the amount of oxygen absorbed by a sample of sewage during a specified period at a specified temperature for the aerobic destruction. Natural waters have the BOD of 1 milligram per liter, whereas untreated domestic sewage has the BOD value of 300 milligrams per liter. And if BOD value is around 300 or more than that, we call it as a strong sewage. And if the BOD value is around 100 milligram per liter, we call it a weak sewage. Now coming to chemical oxygen demand, it measures the oxygen equivalent of that portion of the organic matter in a sample which is susceptible to oxidation by a strong chemical oxidizer. Next is suspended solids. It can vary from 100 to 500 milligrams per liter, and if it is around 100 milligram per liter, we call it as a weak sewage, and if it is more than 500, then it is called as a strong sewage. So there are two methods of sewage treatment. One is primary treatment, other is secondary. Under primary treatment, it includes screening, grit chamber and primary sedimentation. Whereas under secondary treatment, we can see trickling filter method and activated sludge process. So there are different methods of disposal of effluent. So one is by disposal by dilution, disposal on land, sea outfall, river outfall, land treatment, oxidation ponds and ditches. So the Royal Commission recommended 5-day BOD of the effluent, including the suspended matter, should not exceed 20 milligrams per liter. Next topic is medical entomology. So the first table shows the arthropods of medical importance. So it includes class Insecta, class Arachnida and Crustacea. So you can just go through them. And now coming to second table, that is distinctive characters of arthropods for all the three, Insecta, Arachnida and Crustacea. So on the left side, you can see the body divisions, legs, antennae, wings and the location where they found. Okay, so please go through this table. These are some of the common arthropod-borne diseases. And these are some of the common differences between Anopheles and Culicin. Please go through them. And these are some of the common mosquito-borne diseases in India. So on the left side, you can see the type of mosquito and the diseases caused by them. These are the mosquito control measures. Basically, there are three types. One is anti-larval measures, anti-adult measures, and protection against mosquito bites. So in anti-larval measures, we have environmental control, chemical control, and biological control. Under anti-adult measures, we use residual sprays, space sprays, and genetic control. And under protection against mosquito bites, we use mosquito nets, screening, and repellents. These are some of the species of sandflies and the diseases transmitted by them. And in the next table, you can see the diseases transmitted by lice. Now coming to rat fleas, they have a conical head without neck, and the thorax is divided into prothorax, mesothorax, and metathorax. And the flea has no wings, and the abdominal segments are around 10. So there are different species of rat fleas. Some important species are Xenopsila chiopis, Astia, and Braziliensis. Next is flea indices, which is important. Basically, there are 4 indices. One is general flea index, where average number of fleas of all species per rodent. Second is specific flea index, average number of fleas of each species per rodent. Third is percentage incidence of flea species. That is nothing but percentage of fleas of each species found per rodent. And last is rodent infestation rate. So the percentage of rodents infested with the various flea species. So these are the diseases caused by hard tick and soft tick. So hard tick causes tick typhus, Colorado tick fever, viral encephalitis, tularemia, human babesiosis, and tick paralysis. Whereas the soft tick causes Q fever, relapsing fever, and Kaizenur forest disease. So these are some of the differences between hard and soft tick. So please go through them. And one important feature is that soft ticks do not have the scutum. These are some of the diseases associated with rodents. Please go through them. I hope this is helpful and thank you.